Hey guys, time to do a clutch job. I noticed that after I got it running and on the road and finished and everything, that I had some slippage in top gear, and that's pretty much the first place you're going to see a slipping clutch. It's a maximum amount of torque on it, and it was pretty easy to do it, especially when going wide open from third and then into fifth quickly. It's pretty much on demand. So it's been slipping for a while. I couldn't know it when I got it because I didn't ride it hard on the way home because it needed obviously a whole lot of stuff. If you saw the bobber build, you know everything I had to do to it. So anyway, time to do the clutch. Not a big deal. I got all the parts on Amazon. Everything was about 150 bucks. If you're paying to have this done, it's going to be an extra couple hundred in labor. You don't need to pay for this. All right, clutch jobs are extremely easy, especially on anything like this bike. Now this is going to cover any of the Suzuki 805 cc engine bikes, certainly all the C50s, the M50s, probably the C90s, the M109s are going to be darn similar, and the general procedure is going to be the same for pretty much any cruiser out there, and once you get into it, pretty much the same for any bike on the planet. It's super easy. 90% of this job is the work of just getting to the parts. We have to clear the way for our clutch cover right here, all right? And it's basically just taking off this one section of exhaust header, taking off these bolts here. There's a couple bolts on this rear cover that we need to take out, and then this will just slide out of the way a little bit, and we can get to the back bolts. This is going to come off. We're going to take off the old clutch. We're going to put on the new clutch and bolt it back together. Of course, before and after that, we have to drain the oil. So yes, I did the oil change on this recently for nothing, but oh well, no big deal there. I got another K&N filter. This is everything you need to do the clutch job. You need a new OEM gasket for the cover, oil filter. I went with upgraded parts rather than throwing the stock back in there. While I'm in there, might as well do an upgrade. I got carbon fiber clutch discs from Barnett and new steel plates, upgraded springs for better retention, better engagement. I just grabbed some of this because it was handy at Walmart. Castrol motorcycle oil, 10W40. Use whatever oil you're comfortable with for your particular area on bike. And I just went with K&N because it's got that handy dandy nub on the end and not have to fuss with a wrench. It's worth paying a couple extra bucks for it, in my opinion. Do what you want there. Now, if you watch my oil change video, you know that I wanted to find out a better way to do the oil drain. Rather than putting it up on the lift, which we're going to do for the clutch job, but it's off for now because I'm going to try draining the oil on the ground, and I got a shallow pan. You can see that it's much shallower, about a third the height of my normal oil pan, and the reason I had to get that is because the oil pan doesn't fit underneath the bike. It really wedges under the one side, and then there's no room to get a wrench under there. So at least with the shallow pan, I can get in there, get the wrench in, drain the oil into that, then I'll transfer it into there. So it's just an intermediate. But that's going to save all the mess of getting the oil on the jack stand over there. So first step, we're going to drain the oil. And actually, before I do that, the very first step is we need to soak the new clutch plates in oil, because they need to absorb oil. It needs to be soaked for a bare minimum of 20 minutes. An hour is better. So I'm going to start that going, then I'll get the oil out of the bike, then we'll put it up on the stand and start taking off the exhaust. We'll take off that cover, take off this cover, and I'll show you some stuff in the meantime. Super easy. It's probably going to take me about an hour and a half because I'm doing this video. If you're just getting to it, under an hour, cake. So save your money, do your clutches yourself. Super easy job to do, as you'll see. Let's go. Got the old oil out, filter out. That pan worked just fine. That is definitely the way to do it. So grab yourself one of these shallow pans and forego draining it on the lift. Take it from me. Far cleaner, not a drip. And I got the new clutch plates. These are carbon here, soaking in new oil. I had a little bit, about half a quart left of the Rotella, so I'm just using that to soak them. And I had to splash a little bit of one of my new bottles. Hopefully I've got enough. I don't mind taking just a, eighth of a cup or so of that if I need it. It's clean to top it off, but I should have just enough because this takes 3.7 quarts to fill up. And that's just about what it took. Like I said, I had about half a quart left from the last fill up, so that should work just fine. I'm gonna let this go, give it a good half an hour here, not in a huge rush, and I'm going to go ahead and start taking stuff off now. Should be just about the same time that I'm ready for them. Alright, getting this exhaust off, not a big deal. There is a 14 mil bolt up underneath, and it's just on a pinch bracket. And it's holding the header to the muffler, I guess the headlight converter. This is a crossover point right here. So we're just loosening the one bolt. It's right here. I'll have to take it out. It's in a captured nut, and it's just in a pinch bracket. All right, so now that bracket's completely loose, and we'll be able to pop this forward. And then to get the two big Allen bolts out, it takes a, what size is this? 6 mil Allen key. And where did I put it? Here it is. Front one, obviously, no big deal to get out. It was kind of snug. Now you could use a socket on this one, obviously. There's plenty of room there, but this one in here, Allen key barely fits. And I saw some people online didn't quite know how to get that out. All you have to do is put a closed-in wrench and use it as a lever. So that turned real easy. You're almost finger tight in there. Just kind of dirty, and if I had more room I could get it out with my fingers, but we're gonna take these off here and take this pipe right off. Here we go. Now the gaskets should be metal, should be in good condition, should be reusable. Unless you take these off a lot, you're not going to be distorting them or anything. And if you have real trouble getting one off, loosen the other one first. And oftentimes that just shifts the pressure around. That's what I did here. This one in here, I tried it first and it was real snug. So I just loosened this one up, and then this inner one just came right off. Alright, come on, little bugger. I have big fingers. Hard to turn it. There we go. Come on. Trying to vibrate it and turn it at the same time. That's what she said. Come on, get out of there. Got the pipe putting a little bit of pressure on it. Alright, you know what? Just do it the easy way. Use the tool. Looks like a tiny bit of corrosion on there, so I'll clean these up. Don't know when the last time they were taken out. There we go. So now we can just wiggle this pipe, carefully pull it straight out and straight forward off the exhaust muffler. Now we have clearance all the way around. Carefully set this down so I don't scratch it. All the way around our bolts here except the rear. So now we've just got to take this one, little tiny Allen bolt, and this one, little tiny Allen bolt. And let me see if there's any others down here, and one hidden. It's right in this corner, down just behind the pipe. And that should be it. And then we don't need to remove this. We just need to, you know, slide it back a little bit because there's a few other bolts around this perimeter. Actually, I need to verify. Yeah, there's one right in that corner. That's all we have to get to, looks like. So no big deal. I'm going to go ahead and take these off now. Come on, there we go. Wow. That one was tight bugger too. Probably never been off. There's no reason to take this off unless you're doing the clutch. Get this last one out of the way. The washer. Alright. See if this can slide a little bit. Yeah, that's enough. Just needed to get some access right in here to this bolt here. Do we have any others? No. So all that, just so we can access one bolt. You know, all they needed to do is engineer a little freaking notch. Seriously, about 4 millimeters to get an extension through there, and you wouldn't have to do that at all. So now these are 8 mil. There's my 8 mil. Oh, before I take these off, let me show you something that is very good to do whenever you need to keep track of bolts, especially on covers like this, and it's super easy. When you need to keep track of bolts, and the reason we have to do this is most of these are different lengths. They're going through all different kinds of depths through this cover into the block, so it's not just put these into a bin and put them back on the same part. We need to keep track of exactly where they came out of around this gasket. So I got the gasket. Your new gasket is probably going to come on a piece of cardboard. Just save that. You can use a piece of paper, whatever, trace it, make an up arrow, make sure that the orientation is right, all right? So then I just gently poked little holes through here. Be careful if you're doing this not to damage the gasket. You can draw with a little pen, whatever you have to do, all right, to make sure that you got the holes where they're supposed to be. Now we're going to set this gasket aside. Safe location, you don't want any damage to that. So now we got markings of the representation of this cover. Now we can take these bolts out one at a time and stick them through this cardboard, and we'll have a reference, and bada bing bada boom. So now I'm going to just go ahead and take all the bolts out one by one, put them on this pegboard, and take our cover off. Should have absolutely no oil left in there. I repositioned this pan just a little bit while I was jacking it up. I got the bike up, but it's not completely off the ground. It's leaning on the front tire a little bit. I just needed it up and fairly level so I could work. And when I shifted that over to get the jack in, after it tilted up, a little bit of oil came through, of course. So mental note there, keep the pan totally underneath, and the jack will go just behind the pan, and that works just fine. But I didn't know how far I had to go, so got a little bit of oil underneath the pan to clean up, just a couple quick seconds of it coming out. But still happy with the pan idea. Now these should be on with virtually no torque. These are almost hand tight. Very, very small bolts. Torque spec on these is something like 7 foot-pounds. So do not go crazy when you're doing anything like this. Don't need to go in any special pattern. Just crack them all loose, then we'll run them off by hand. Where is that one? I can't see it. Are you kidding me? The socket's too big to fit in there? Alright, I gotta go find a really small ratchet and extension. I'm using an adapter on here because it's an 8 mil. I have to use my real tiny socket set and this guy here. But this guy here is too big to fit in and get on the bolt heads. Ugh. That one worked. What about this one? At least I can't get it on that one. No, maybe I will. Hold on. Maybe it was hitting something else. That one worked. Never mind. Just had the slightly wrong angle, I guess. That one worked. And now the bugger that we had to remove that cover for. There we go. This guy here, he's loose. Alright, so they're all broken loose. Now, I'll start at this top one just for reference. That's going to be this guy right here at the very top, the crease. Don't know how long these are. Fairly long. And we'll stick him right through. Careful with your fingers. Come on. Now, you know what? I'm going to poke through all the way here with my Allen key first. Make it easier to run the bolt through. Then I'll tell you what, I love Amazon. I didn't even order it Prime, and this stuff was here in 2 and 3 days. It was 3 separate orders, 3 separate stores. None of them even came from the Amazon warehouses. They're all third party. Super fast shipping. I love the ones, I mean, it's you'd have to really look at how they ship and determine what the time's going to be, because even though every one of these said that the ship time was going to be up to 2 weeks, I saw that they were shipping priority mail. I know that's 2 to 3 days. 2 of the items shipped the same day I ordered, and the clutch parts shipped the next day. And no matter where they're coming from in the country, they all happen to be within 1 day's travel time for the mail. They were here. You know, it's free shipping. Didn't even have to use the Prime. Prime wouldn't have been any faster. So I definitely love shopping on Amazon. We've got 2 warehouses here now, one in Tampa and one in Lakeland. And they're about to do a huge job fair. They're hiring 3,000 people. So if anybody is in the Tampa or Lakeland area and doesn't have a job, there's no more excuses. Go get yourself a job at Amazon. They said they're hiring on the spot. You can apply online too, but they're hiring on the spot for walk-in applicants. Huge job fair. You can Google it. Go to baynews9.com. That's one of our local news stations. They all got the details and stories about it. I know there's a lot of freaking people around here that complain or claim that there's no jobs, there's no jobs. Oh, there's jobs. I see help wanted everywhere. Help wanted signs are in every freaking area. It's just people don't want to work. That's the damn truth. I'm going to finish taking this cover off and we'll get inside. We've only got like 4 bolts left to take off. Our new clutch parts should be well soaked by then. And we'll just button it back up, put the new oil in, go test her out. Alright, we're going to set this aside, out of the way. Just make sure they don't pop out of the holes and you're good there. Now we shouldn't have more than maybe a drop or 2 of oil come out of this when I take it off. If it's kind of stuck on, you can give it a tap with a rubber mallet or a dead blow. What I don't want to do is have to pry it. Alright, I'm going to go grab a hammer real quick. I'm just going to give it a few gentle raps. Just kind of get her loosened up a bit. Get some vibrations going through. There we go. All it needs is a little persuasion. Pull it straight off carefully. And there we go. Fairly clean oil in there, which it should be. It's new. Got the old gasket stuck on here. Quickly verify that it looks the same. And it does. Good. I'm going to set this aside and we'll take the gasket off, make sure that no gasket material is stuck on the cover or the case. If there is, use a gasket scraper or appropriate tool that you have to get the gasket off. This one's coming off really cleanly, so that's a very good thing. It's a little brittle, and that's fine. It's just a pain in the butt when it just flakes apart. So this will come off no problem. Anyway, I'll get this cleaned up here. Now inside here, obviously, it's our clutch assembly. And everything looks pretty good on the outside. I don't see anything flaking off. I don't see any grit. I don't see any metal material. I'm gonna have to look into that chain. That seems pretty loose. I'm sure there's a spec for the deflection. I'll check that out. while I'm in here. But first I'll take the clutch assembly off. It's just these 4 bolts. There's going to be a bearing in the center behind it. It should stay on the engine shaft, and we don't need to mess with it, so we're going to take these 4 bolts off carefully. The springs are directly underneath it. These are caps on top of the clutch springs. Now the stock ones are probably going to be pretty weak, but be careful anyway, because they could just kind of spring out, and they shouldn't be on there with all that much force. That looks like a 10 mil, I'm guessing. Yeah, not an 8. I know it's not a 14. I'm gonna go grab my 10. Yeah, that's a 10. You do want to do these in a star pattern, just like lug nuts. I'm just getting them broke loose. Alright, now I'm going to spin them off by hand. And of course, tighten them in a star pattern also. Just tight enough to be a pain by hand. Just loose enough where you don't think you need the ratchet. I can see the spring coming out. It'll be interesting to see how these springs look visually compared to the new Barnett's. Long screws, there we go. Long springs, pretty thin springs. There's one. Doesn't matter where they go, they're all the same. I'm gonna zip these out. Whoa, here comes the wind, blowing a lot of leaves in. We are due for some more major storms. They're supposed to hit around 3. It's almost 3 here, I think. 2 something at least. I see some dark clouds in the distance there. It's a beautiful morning. Here's spring number 2 coming out. I'm going to grab one of the new springs for comparison here. Let me grab the new box. Let's open these guys up. They should be about the same size. The old ones may have shrunk, however, so that's what I'm curious about. I'm very sure these are going to be stronger springs. How in the heck did you... There you go. Oh yeah, much stronger. Definitely no confusing the two. Exactly the same size. They are, the old ones did not shrink at all. However, much stiffer springs. I should have a lot better engagement. These are quite soft. They almost feel progressive. Very stiff. All right, cool beans. So those are going to do their job for sure. And it's good to know that the old ones hadn't deformed. They were still doing their job. I'm sure it's just a case of things wearing out. You know, I went on the forums again, like I said, and found a bunch of people that said, my clutches have gone 100,000 miles. And then a couple people, in fact, a viewer yesterday said, dude, I got the C50T and my clutch was completely done at 50. And this has 43. So, you know, that just might be par for the course. Might have just a little bit to do with how it was ridden, but this particular stock clutch, I guess this is just due. So no big deal. So I'm not surprised that everything looks fine. We'll probably just find that the pad material on these plates is worn down quite a bit compared to the new ones. Hopefully that's all we find. And that just means this is a completely normal maintenance item. Totally fine with that. Here comes the last spring. Now these plates have to come out in order. There's only one that's different, and that's the one that goes against the engine. It's fatter. Where did that cloth go? There it is. It's fatter, and that, like I said, has to go against the engine. Other than that, they're all the same. You just have to make sure that things go back in the right order for general assembly. Now, some people will hang these on their rear foot peg or whatever. Obviously, I don't have a rear foot peg. I'm just going to stack them on this cloth here. Just take them out, inspect them, and lay them down. And that'll be good enough. So now we can take out the basket carefully. Take out the pressure plate. And that bearing is what we don't want to disturb. Just leave that guy alone. He's not going anywhere. Everything looks perfectly good there. Set him aside. Take the first friction plate out. Kind of like brake pads, just circular. Might kind of want to be stuck together, so just separate the first friction plate from the steel plate. You've got alternating friction plates, which are like your brake shoes, and steel plates like your rotors, but you got layers of them. It's not just one. Okay, well, it's even at least. Let's take a look at one of the new ones, and we'll see what kind of depth we're supposed to have. This, I mean, there's not much here at all. I can barely catch the edge of these friction bars. It's maybe a quarter the thickness of a credit card, if that. So, I mean, it's done. It's quite done. Let me pull one of the new ones real quick. On the new ones, it is about 3 times as thick. I mean, it's still really shallow. Don't think of it anything like a brake pad or brake shoe. However, it is at least 3 times as thick as the ones coming off. So definitely a lot of normal wear on those old ones. I'm going to put this back in the oil for now. Out of the way, I'll get the rest of this off. I'm replacing everything in here. If you were doing stock, you wouldn't necessarily need to replace your steel plates. It's a good idea. They're very inexpensive and they do wear a little bit. But most of the wear is going to be on your friction plate, your friction pad material. But seriously, you're talking like 30 bucks. So do it all. I'm just looking for any kind of burning, any kind of discoloration. Nothing. It all looks good. So I'm just going to pull off a big chunk here. Like I said, it was just starting to slip, so I don't expect to see any kind of damage. And just looking through the stack here, the ones in the middle, there's a couple in the middle that have twice as much material as the ones on the ends. So the ones on the ends were wearing first, definitely. And I mean, the ones in the middle still don't look new. They look, you know, about half of the brand new pads or friction plates. So not bad. Set those aside there. This last one here is the big fat one. Like I was saying, that's the one that goes directly against the engine. And same wear on the material here. A little bit better than the outside, but still half of the new ones. And just inspecting everything here, that all looks perfectly good. Got big washer rings in here. Leave them alone. They just sit in there. I don't see any wear on the cogs. Nothing in there, just good oil. Bearing here all looks good, nice and shiny. So I'm gonna just check the book on this chain, see if there's any spec for it. probably perfectly normal. But, you know, while I'm in here, just double check. Everything else looks good. I don't see any wear on the gears. Teeth are all nice and cut. Nothing here in the main. Okay, so I'm going to check that book spec on that chain, and then we'll just reassemble it. Well, the book doesn't list any spec for that. It's the oil pump drive chain, and it just says assemble it as an assembly, so it's just something that probably doesn't wear. What I'm going to do now is get these new clutch parts ready to assemble. I need to get the oil off of them so it's not dripping all over the place. Got my new steel plates. These are all the same. The only different part between everything here is the one thicker friction plate, and that's going to go on first. So let me get these out of the oil. I want to try to save this oil just in case I need it. I don't think I will. That's interesting. There's like a piece of plastic stuck in here. Like it might be going around the parts. It's probably from shipping. I just didn't notice it when I put them in the oil. Don't want anything foreign on this stuff when you assemble it. So I'm going to identify the one thick plate. That's this one right here. Let this drip dry a little bit more. Separate them all real quick. Set them down on this paper towel. All right. So the big guy goes on first. Doesn't matter which way. Just need to make sure that the fingers fit in the proper locations. And why is that not going in? This is not what I wanted. Okay, let's verify they shipped the right parts. Yep, that's the same. Must just be a trick. There we go, just had to get it perfectly aligned. My bad. These here, what I thought were washers, I guess one's like a wave spring. The book is calling them the judder springs. Can't say I know what they do, but they just sit in there, I know that. So now we just alternate between steel plate and friction plate all the way to the end until we've built up the clutch pack. Last steel plate and the last friction plate. There we go. Whew, it's hot out. Try not to drip sweat in the oil. In the side there. Okay, now we can put our friction plate or pressure plate back on. Carefully, you don't want to disturb that bearing. centered, popped on. Now we can put on our new springs. I just slip around these stanchions. And put our bolts back in. Might be a little tight. These are going to be stiffer and they're going to be under pressure. Remember to torque them down in a star pattern. Just want to get them started right now. There we go. There's not quite enough pressure to prevent it from starting, so put them in by hand. My hands are super oily right now, I can't grip anything. I'm not running these in, so it doesn't matter what order you start them in. Just don't want to cross thread them is the point. Make sure you wipe up any oil. Got some residual dripping off the clutch plates here. So just before I button up the cover, I'm going to wipe up the frame there. Don't need any of that sitting around dripping on the floor, getting on the tire, yada yada yada. Not a good thing. Alright. Wipe off my hands here so I can grip a tool. Whew. Hot, muggy day. Okay, we're ready to torque these down. Remember, just snug. The torque spec is 7 foot-pounds, or 88 inch-pounds, excuse me, is the actual spec. So, if you have to measure it, go right ahead. Come on, get in there. My ratchet's stuck. Okay, don't tell me you broke already. Stuck at an angle, there we go. Okay, remind me not to use the angle feature of that again. 7 foot-pounds. That's it, not much. Crisscross pattern. That's all it takes. Boom. Clutch job done. Let's go ahead and reassemble. After I got all the old gasket material scraped off carefully, had to use a razor knife. It's 99% gone. The rest, man, I can't even feel it. I can see it, but I don't want to really gouge it in there with the razor. Rinsed it out with acetone, made sure that 100% of the gasket debris is out. And you got these two small little metal bushings that go in one slot here and one slot here. They can also go on the cover side, but they're a little loose on the cover side, so I'm going to put them on the engine. And I'm going to put the new gasket also on the engine side and just hang it on those two little bushings there. Don't need to treat it with anything. Just carefully get it on there without snagging or tearing. Watch the gear. Just get it around and just let it sit there on the bushing. And then I'm going to give this just a few minutes here to dry out. I'll dab it with a paper towel, just get the residue of the acetone and the oil out, and we'll set it up on there. One note, I did clean this passage out here. I think it's just a blind passage. I don't think any coolant or anything goes through there, but there were some like little bug cocoons and a leaf in there, so I got all that out. Can't really tell if it would be doing anything. It's not open to the engine or anything like that, but it ain't supposed to be there. Okay, let's get this cleaned out and back on the engine, ready to go to work. Make sure the gasket isn't pinched. I can see that this replacement gasket is just a little bit differently shaped. It's not quite cut for the basket. It's got a raised lip. So if that's important to you, make sure you order an OEM. I swore I ordered an OEM, but I'm guessing this is not an OEM because of the way it fits. Oop, hey now. I'm gonna get a bolt in there to hold that top real quick. So I'm gonna start with my tippy top bolt, just like I started with the removal. Just get them in there hand tight to keep the cover in place. Run them down as far as I can. Then I'm just going to continue around and we'll bolt up the rest of it. Get this little side cover back in place, get the exhaust back in place, put the new filter on, fill it up with oil, and go give her a test ride. Look how tiny the actual exhaust pipes are. That's it. All that big old fake stuff in the back, man. It's about 5 times the total diameter volume of the actual pipe. There we go. All right. Double check, make sure everything's good. Got the cover. Oh, forgot this bolt down here. I didn't take it all the way, so I just need to run it into the captured nut, tighten it up, and that's gonna just draw the clamp closed. Okay, I need the socket, and I believe that was 14. And just good and tight torque specs on this one. You don't want it to start bending the metal, but you want it absolutely rock solid and sealed. And there we go. So, bolts are in, 1, 2, 3. All those are in, torqued, inside, torqued, that, done. Now we can put on our new filter, drain plug, fill it up with oil, and that should be it. All right, let's do the oil. Woo, here comes the rain. I'll tell you what, it just cooled it down. It feels nice right now. All right, got the oil in, ready to fire it up. I'm gonna let it warm up, fill up the oil filter, top it off. Done with that. Now, there is a next step. but this is going to be coming in the next video. You need to do a full clutch adjustment. Because we just completely changed the way the clutch acts and feels, and we've got all kinds of slop in the clutch now. Because we got different springs and we got different plate thicknesses. We just added a lot. So it all needs to be done, and it's not just adjusting this little top guy up here. That's the last resort. I'm going to show you how to do it. It's popping these two covers off, getting in here, adjusting it down at the clutch lever itself. Then we set the slack with this. This is going to be reset. This is going to be reset to all the way in. All right. So that way, as the clutch wears, we can just adjust this out. But that's going to start fresh. That's going to start fresh. So I'll show you guys how to do that, because that is something that you have to do anyway. It doesn't have necessarily have anything to do with only doing it because you replace the clutch. You always have to do it after doing the clutch, but sometimes you have to do this anyway just from normal wear. So stay tuned for that in the next how-to video. You know, I'll do it later today, so I'll probably be up tomorrow. But just know that that is the next step after actually replacing your clutch components. So that's it, guys. Hope it helped somebody. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time.